They'll only treat you the way you allow them to. Every single day, you're training the world how to treat you by what you tolerate, by what you let slide, and by what you don't stand up for. Whether you realize it or not, you are constantly sending signals. And people, they're watching, they're learning, they're adapting to the boundaries you do or don't set. Let that sink in. You are the standard. If they're walking all over you, it's because somewhere along the line, you laid the doormat down yourself. This isn't about blame. It's about power. Taking it back, owning it. Because the truth is, if you don't teach people how to treat you with respect, with kindness, with value, they will teach themselves. And the version they teach themselves, it won't be in your favor. People will always take cues from you on how to treat you. The way you react to their words, their actions, their neglect, or even their praise constantly teaches them what's acceptable and what's not. Every moment, whether you're aware of it or not, you're sending messages about your value through your tone, your posture, your silence, your forgiveness, your boundaries or your lack thereof. When you let disrespect slide once, you're not just avoiding conflict, you're teaching. You're signaling that the behavior, although hurtful, didn't have any consequences. And when there are no consequences, people assume it's okay to do it again. Over time, this becomes a pattern, and what was once just a moment of discomfort becomes the standard for how they interact with you. The truth is, we teach others how to treat us not just by what we say, but by what we tolerate. Words mean very little when actions show something else. You can say you value respect, but if you allow people to interrupt you, ignore your needs, or disregard your feelings without speaking up or stepping away, then your actions are giving them permission to continue. You might not realize it at the time. Maybe you're trying to keep the peace, avoid confrontation, or be seen as easygoing, but in doing so, you're sacrificing your own worth just to keep things calm on the surface. People are observant, even when they don't say much. They pick up on how you treat yourself, how you respond to mistreatment, how you navigate difficult conversations. If you constantly put others ahead of yourself, if you're always available, always understanding, always saying it's okay, even when it's not, then they will learn that your needs are negotiable, that your feelings are optional, that your time is up for grabs. And once they learn that, they'll continue to act accordingly, not because they're cruel, but because you've trained them that this is the norm. When you make excuses for people's bad behavior, they don't see it as kindness, they see it as permission. When you allow disrespect because you don't want to seem dramatic, they don't see it as maturity, they see it as weakness. People don't operate by what's fair, they operate by what they can get away with. And if they've learned they can mistreat you without consequence, then they'll keep doing it, sometimes without even realizing it. This doesn't mean you have to become confrontational or cold. It means you need to become conscious of your boundaries, conscious of what behaviors you respond to, conscious of how often you bend to accommodate others while shrinking yourself. The minute you decide to be intentional with your reactions, to no longer reward bad behavior with silence or forgiveness, you begin to teach people something new. You start to show them that access to you is a privilege, not a right, that your kindness has limits, that your time has value, that your energy is not infinite. What you allow is what will continue. People take notes based on your responses, not your intentions. So if you don't draw the line, don't be surprised when they keep crossing it, because in their eyes, the absence of resistance is agreement. The absence of clarity is confusion, and the absence of standards is chaos. You must understand that every interaction is a moment of teaching. What you tolerate today becomes the rule book they use tomorrow. It's not about being hard or aggressive. It's about being clear, consistent, and courageous enough to protect your peace. Respect isn't something you beg for, chase after, or try to convince others to give you. It's something you command by the way you carry yourself, by the energy you walk into a room with, by the boundaries you uphold without apology. People don't respect you because of how much effort you put into pleasing them. They respect you when they recognize that you respect yourself. There's a quiet power in someone who knows who they are, who doesn't need to perform, impress, or explain themselves constantly. That kind of presence creates a shift in the atmosphere. People pause before they speak to you. They think twice before crossing a line, not because you threaten them, but because you've shown through your self-respect that you're not someone to take lightly. Too often, people make the mistake of thinking respect is earned through self-sacrifice. They believe that if they do enough for others, if they show how loyal, kind, or helpful they are, respect will follow. But that's not how it works. When you overextend yourself to earn respect, you send the opposite message. That you're willing to trade your dignity for approval, that you're available for exploitation in exchange for validation. And people don't respect those who need their validation to feel valuable. They may appreciate your kindness. They may use your generosity. But respect is deeper than appreciation. Respect comes when people understand that your worth isn't dependent on how they treat you. It's already established, and it won't be moved. Self-respect isn't loud or arrogant. It doesn't need to be announced or advertised. It's visible in the choices you make, in the way you say no without guilt, in the way you walk away from anything that doesn't align with your value system. People are watching how you show up for yourself. If they see that you stand firm on your boundaries, that you prioritize your peace, that you don't compromise your standards to be liked, they learn very quickly that you are someone who is and grounded people don't tolerate nonsense. Grounded people don't entertain disrespect. Grounded people don't beg for space. They own it. Your presence says more than your words ever could. You could say 1,000 times that you want to be respected, but if your actions show desperation, insecurity, or self-abandonment, your words will be ignored. On the other hand, you might say very little, but the way you carry yourself will speak volumes. Your posture, your silence when needed, your decisiveness, your calm confidence, all of that teaches others that they're dealing with someone who's already full, someone who doesn't need to be filled by external approval. That energy cannot be faked, and when you have it, people feel it immediately. There's a difference between demanding respect and commanding it. Demanding it comes from a place of lack, of needing others to fill in a gap inside you. But commanding respect is about embodying dignity. It's about being the kind of person who sets the tone rather than reacts to it. When people feel that energy from you, they respond differently. They listen more carefully. They approach more thoughtfully. They understand that you're not available for games, for manipulation, or for anything less than what honors your value. The key to commanding respect is internal. It's not about being liked. It's not about being feared. It's about being anchored in your worth. When you know what you bring to the table, you stop begging for a seat at someone else's. You stop trying to convince people to see your value. Instead, you move with a quiet confidence that either attracts the right people or repels the wrong ones. And both are gifts. Boundaries are not walls built to isolate or push people away. They are guidelines that teach others how to interact with you in a healthy, respectful, and sustainable way. A boundary is simply a line that defines what is okay for you and what is not. It's a form of self-respect that communicates your values, your needs, and your emotional limits. When you don't set boundaries, people assume everything is allowed. And when everything is allowed, eventually something will hurt, drain, or break you. But the moment you begin setting clear, non-negotiable boundaries, you stop the chaos, you stop the confusion, you replace resentment with clarity, silence with communication, and exhaustion with peace. People cannot read your mind. They learn how to treat you based on what you do and don't accept. When you speak up about what you need, you're giving them a chance to step up, to show that they're capable of respecting your space, your time, and your emotional energy. And if they can't or won't, that also reveals something. Boundaries act as a filter. They help you separate those who are for your growth from those who only want access to you for their own benefit. You can't hold people accountable for crossing lines you never drew. If you've been staying quiet, hoping people will just get it, understand that they won't. Not because they're unkind, but because you haven't taught them how to treat you yet. It's easy to think that setting boundaries is selfish or harsh, especially if you've been raised to be accommodating, to keep the peace, or to prioritize others over yourself. But boundaries are not a betrayal of love. They are a condition for healthy love. Without them, you're left giving too much, feeling overwhelmed and wondering why you're not appreciated. When you set a boundary, you're not pushing someone away. You're inviting them into a relationship with structure, with respect, and with mutual understanding. It becomes less about control and more about alignment. The right people won't be threatened by your boundaries. They'll be grateful for them because they'll know exactly how to love you better. One of the biggest lies you can believe is that boundaries ruin relationships. The truth is, the lack of boundaries is what leads to resentment, burnout, and eventual disconnection. When you say yes to things you don't want to do just to keep people happy, you're not being kind, you're being dishonest. And that dishonesty builds up. It shows in your tone, your mood, your behavior. You start to feel taken for granted, even though you never gave anyone a reason to believe otherwise. That's what makes boundaries so powerful. They're not just about protecting you from others, but about protecting others from the consequences of your unspoken political frustration. Boundaries require courage because they challenge your patterns. If you've spent years pleasing others to feel valuable, saying no might feel terrifying, but that fear is temporary. The peace that follows is permanent. Every time you honor a boundary, you send a message to yourself: I matter, my needs are valid, my energy is not infinite. That self-affirmation builds your confidence, and people begin to feel that energy. They notice the shift. They realize that you're no longer available for anything that costs you your sanity, your joy, or your self-respect. What's important to understand is that boundaries don't have to be shouted. They don't have to come with drama or ultimatums. A quiet, clear no is enough. A decision not to answer a call, not to reply to a text, not to rearrange your life for someone who wouldn't do the same for you. That's a boundary, and it's enough. You don't owe everyone access to you. You don't have to explain yourself to people who consistently ignore your needs. Boundaries are not about punishment. They're about protection, not just of your time, but of your peace, your energy, and your emotional well-being. When you raise your standards, everything around you starts to shift. People either rise to meet you, or they slowly fade away because they can't match the new level you've chosen to operate from. Standards are not about perfection. They're about clarity. They define what you accept, what you welcome, and what you allow in your life. If you're constantly feeling disrespected, underappreciated, or taken for granted, it's not always because people are malicious. It's often because you haven't drawn a clear line between what's acceptable and what's not. Your standards are like an energetic filter. They don't just determine the quality of your relationships, they shape the quality of your entire life. People tend to meet you where you meet yourself. If you treat yourself like an afterthought, others will do the same. If you constantly doubt your worth, others will too. But when you begin to operate with a higher level of self-respect, self-care, and intentionality, it sends a message to everyone in your orbit. This is what I expect, and I won't settle for less. And not everyone will like it. Some will resist. Some will call you difficult, distant, or selfish. But that's not a reflection of your standards being too high. It's a reflection of their comfort with the old version of you who didn't speak up, didn't demand more, didn't know your own value. You teach people how to treat you by the level of energy you allow in your space. If your standards are low, your space becomes chaotic, your time gets wasted, and your peace is constantly under attack. But when your standards are high, You begin to attract people who are aligned with your growth, your goals, and your values. They respect your time because you respect it. They value your energy because you protect it. They understand your boundaries because you've shown them you won't compromise them for temporary attention or approval. This shift doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to remember who you've always been before you started settling, before life, fear, or insecurity convinced you to lower the bar just to be accepted. Raising your standards means refusing to stay in spaces where you feel small. It means no longer chasing people who only come around when they need something. It means walking away from conversations that drain your spirit and choosing silence over explaining your worth. It's not about arrogance, it's about alignment. You're simply aligning yourself with the kind of relationships, environments, and experiences that honor who you truly are. The beauty of raising your standards is that you stop relying on others to give you what you were always capable of giving yourself. You stop expecting loyalty from people who are loyal to their convenience. You stop confusing attention with love. You stop accepting potential in place of effort. And most importantly, you stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing yourself. Every decision you make from this higher place begins to reinforce your new stand. From the people you respond to the situations you stay in, to the conversations you entertain, it all becomes a reflection of how deeply you've committed to valuing yourself. Most people don't set boundaries because they're afraid of the response. They fear being seen as rude, selfish, or difficult. But here's the truth. The people who are offended by your boundaries are usually the ones who benefited from you not having any. They liked it better when you said yes to everything, even when it drained you. They liked it when you put their needs above your own. So of course, when you start saying no, when you start speaking up, when you stop explaining yourself, they push back. But that pushback isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's confirmation that you're finally doing something right. The moment you begin to set clear boundaries, everything changes. You no longer waste time on people who only show up when they need something. You no longer feel obligated to explain your every decision or justify your feelings. You stop participating in conversations that leave you emotionally exhausted. You stop tolerating jokes that aren't funny and criticism masked as concern. Boundaries aren't about control. They're about clarity. They let others know where you end and where they begin. They help you define what's okay and what's not just for others, but for yourself. Because sometimes the person who needs the most reminding is you. You need to remind yourself that your needs are valid, that your time is valuable, that your peace is not up for negotiation. Boundaries also teach you self-discipline. They require you to consistently uphold your own standards, even when it's uncomfortable. It's easy to tell someone what your boundaries are. It's harder to walk away when they ignore them. But that's where your growth happens. That's where you reinforce to yourself and others that your boundaries are not suggestions. They're requirements. People will watch how you respond when your boundaries are challenged. Do you stay silent? Do you make excuses for the other person? Or do you calmly but firmly hold the line? Your response teaches them what they can get away with. It sets the tone for future interactions. One of the most powerful shifts in life happens when you stop making your boundaries negotiable, when you no longer sacrifice your well-being to avoid making others uncomfortable, when you stop fearing someone's disappointment more than you fear your own exhaustion. That's when you truly begin to teach people how to treat you, not by force, not by begging, but by consistency. You don't have to yell or argue to make a boundary known. You simply have to mean what you say and follow through with action. If someone crosses the line, you don't just point it out, you decide what happens next. That might mean taking space, cutting access, or changing the dynamic completely. Boundaries also help you attract healthier relationships. When people know what to expect, they can show up with intention. They understand the rules of engagement. They know how to respect you without guessing. And in return, you create space for mutual trust and understanding to grow. You begin to surround yourself with people who don't just tolerate your boundaries, they appreciate them because those people value what you value. They aren't threatened by your strength. They're inspired by it. They see your boundaries not as rejection, but as a roadmap to deeper connection. Consistency is one of the most underrated yet powerful tools when it comes to teaching people how to treat you. It doesn't matter how strong your boundaries are if you don't consistently uphold them. People learn your limits not by what you say once, but by what you allow repeatedly. If one day you speak up and demand respect, but the next day you let someone walk all over you without consequence, you send mixed signals. And when the signals are mixed, people choose the version of you that benefits them the most, the one that's flexible, the one that makes exceptions, the one they can manipulate when needed. This inconsistency weakens your message and tells others that your standards are negotiable depending on your mood, their charm, or the situation. Consistency is what reinforces your worth. It tells people that your self-respect isn't just a moment of courage, it's a way of life. It doesn't mean you're rigid or inflexible. It means your principles don't shift depending on who you're dealing with. Whether it's a close friend, a romantic partner, a colleague, or a stranger, your treatment of yourself and your expectations from others remains steady. That steadiness builds trust. It tells people, this is who I am, and this is how I expect to be treated. Every time, not just when it's convenient for me or comfortable for you. The power in that is immense. It draws a clear line that others can either respect or remove themselves from, and either outcome is a win because both protect your peace. The lack of consistency usually comes from emotional vulnerability. Sometimes, when you care deeply for someone, you make exceptions. You let things slide because you don't want to lose them. You convince yourself that it was just this once or that they didn't mean it. But what starts as an exception quickly becomes a pattern. People aren't shaped by your intentions. They're shaped by your actions. If your actions say that you'll accept disrespect when feelings are involved, then that's exactly how they'll treat you in emotionally charged moments. They won't take your boundaries seriously because you've trained them not to. They won't value your standards because they've seen you lower them. Consistency is also essential in self-talk. The way you speak to yourself when no one is watching sets the tone for how others treat you. If you constantly doubt yourself, diminish your achievements, or internalize blame that doesn't belong to you, others will pick up on that energy. You can't preach self-respect while practicing self-abandonment. You must be the first one to honor your worth consistently. That means how you handle disappointments, how you respond to rejection, how you talk to yourself in the mirror. All of it matters because people observe how you carry yourself and they mirror that energy back to you. If you walk with confidence and certainty, they treat you with consideration. If you walk with fear and apology, they treat you as disposable. Being consistent doesn't mean being perfect. You'll have moments where emotions get the better of you, where you let something slide that you shouldn't have, or where you second guess your instincts. That's human. The key is to recognize when you've drifted from your standard and realign quickly. Don't let temporary emotions create permanent habits. When you mess up, own it. Reassert your boundaries, reset the tone. That recalibration is what keeps your consistency intact over time. It shows that your values aren't dependent on circumstance. They're grounded in who you are. Consistency also trains people to be accountable. When they know what you'll tolerate and what you won't, they begin to take responsibility for how they show up. They understand that there are consequences for mistreatment, not because you're punishing them, but because you honor yourself. And when you create a space where your energy demands respect, the people who want to stay in your life must rise to meet it. Those who won't or can't naturally fall away, not because of conflict, but because your consistency made it clear that they no longer fit. It is essential to understand that you can only teach people how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. The relationship you have with yourself sets the standard for how others will treat you. If you're constantly putting your own needs last, neglecting your own well-being, or ignoring your own desires and dreams, you're essentially sending a message that you're not worth the effort. You can't expect people to value you if you don't value yourself. The way you treat yourself communicates your self-worth to the world. If you're kind, patient, and loving toward yourself, people will mirror that energy. But if you dismiss your own needs, make excuses for your pain, and overlook your own value, others will do the same. It's not about perfection. It's about showing up for yourself in a way that demonstrates you're worthy of respect, love, and kindness. One of the most powerful ways to teach people how to treat you is by setting the example through self-care. Taking care of your mental, emotional, and physical well-being isn't selfish. It's essential. When you prioritize your health, your happiness, and your inner peace, you send a clear message to the people around you that you won't tolerate neglect or disrespect. Self-care is not just about pampering yourself. It's about protecting your energy, your time, and your boundaries. It's about making decisions that reflect your values and honoring yourself even when no one else is watching. People pay attention to how you show up for yourself. If you're always exhausted, stressed, or putting everyone else's needs before your own, they will learn that you're a person who can be taken advantage of, someone who doesn't know how to say no. But if you consistently take time for yourself, if you make choices that reflect your self-respect, others will learn that you won't settle for anything less than the same treatment. The way you speak to yourself also plays a crucial role in teaching others how to treat you. If you constantly put yourself down, criticize yourself, or engage in negative self-talk, others will mirror that behavior. People tend to treat you how you treat yourself. And if you show yourself love, respect, and understanding, those who value you will do the same. Self-compassion isn't about excusing your mistakes or allowing yourself to slip into complacency. It's about being kind to yourself even when you fall short. It's about acknowledging your flaws without allowing them to define you. When you treat yourself with love and patience, it creates an environment where others are encouraged to treat you with the same respect. Forgiveness is another critical aspect of how you treat yourself. If you're constantly holding on to past mistakes, beating yourself up for things that are out of your control, or staying stuck in regret, you create an atmosphere of self-resentment. This negative energy attracts people who also hold on to grudges or treat you as though you're undeserving of forgiveness. However, when you let go of past pain and learn to forgive yourself, you create space for healing, growth, and self-love. People will see this openness and either rise to meet your forgiveness or move away because they realize they can't continue this cycle of negativity. Self-forgiveness teaches others how to let go of bitterness and create healthier relationships with themselves and you. Learning to set healthy boundaries with yourself is just as important as setting them with others. This means recognizing when you're overextending yourself, when you're saying yes out of obligation rather than desire, and when you're allowing things into your life that drain you. When you learn to say no to things that don't serve you, when you stop overloading yourself, and when you start protecting your own time and space, you teach others that your energy is precious. People who respect you will recognize these boundaries and honor them, while those who don't respect them will slowly fade away. You can only control how much you allow others to take from you, but that begins with how much you allow yourself to give. Being mindful of your own boundaries will teach others how to respect them as well. Embracing your self-worth means no longer accepting anything less than what you deserve. You can't keep sacrificing your needs for the sake of others or allowing yourself to be treated poorly out of fear of confrontation or rejection. When you truly recognize your worth, you stop settling for less. You start walking away from relationships and situations that do not honor you, and that's the message you send to others. Treat me with respect, or I won't engage with you. People will either rise to meet your standard, or they won't be a part of your life. And that is one of the most powerful ways you can teach people how to treat you, by no longer accepting anything that doesn't align with your values and self-respect. The way you show up in the world is the way people will perceive and treat you. Every interaction, every decision, every moment of engagement communicates something about your self-worth, your values, and your expectations. If you allow disrespect to slide, if you tolerate behavior that diminishes your sense of self, then you are teaching people that it is acceptable to treat you that way. But when you consistently hold yourself to a higher standard, when you refuse to compromise on your own values and principles, you set a clear example for others on how to treat you. It's not enough to just hope or expect that others will treat you well. You have to actively create an environment where they understand what is acceptable and what is not. When you act with confidence and clarity, people are drawn to you. They are naturally inclined to respect you because you carry yourself with respect. This isn't about arrogance or superiority. It's about recognizing your inherent value and communicating that through your actions, words, and behaviors. The way you stand, the way you speak, the way you interact with others, all reflect your understanding of your worth. When you walk into a room with a sense of self-assurance, when you speak with conviction, when you set clear boundaries, you teach others that you are someone who should be treated with care and consideration. And while some people might initially test those boundaries, it's your consistent demonstration of self-respect that eventually reinforces them. You also teach people how to treat you through your actions. If you are always there for others, always putting their needs first, always being the one who gives, others will start to expect that of you. You will become the person they turn to when they need something, but they may take your kindness for granted, assuming that you will always be available. But when you begin to prioritize yourself, when you start saying no, when you make your own needs a priority, you send a message that your time, your energy, and your emotions are valuable. You teach others that you are not to be taken for granted, that your presence and your efforts are not limitless, and that respect must be mutual. It's not about being selfish. It's about setting a standard of reciprocity. You are teaching others to recognize your value by taking your own needs seriously and ensuring that they do the same. The language you use also plays a critical role in teaching people how to treat you. The way you speak to yourself and others sends a powerful message about how you expect to be treated. If you constantly undermine yourself, if you use self-deprecating language or downplay your achievements, you are inadvertently telling people that it's okay to disregard your worth. On the other hand, when you speak positively about yourself, when you affirm your value, and when you engage in conversations that reinforce your self-respect, you create an environment where others are more likely to treat you at the same level of respect. Your words shape your reality, and they shape how others see and engage with you. By speaking with confidence and clarity about who you are and what you expect, you set the tone for all your relationships. Actions speak louder than words, but words do carry weight. When you are clear about what you will and won't tolerate, when you articulate your boundaries, and when you express your needs with confidence, you teach people how to treat you. You remove any ambiguity or confusion, and you create a framework that others can either respect or reject. And the people who respect you will value your words and your boundaries, while those who don't will make their exit. Either way, you're left with relationships that align with your values, relationships that nurture your self-respect rather than undermine it. When you begin to teach people how to treat you, you also give them the opportunity to show up in a more authentic way. You allow them to step into a space where they are clear about your expectations, where they understand the rules of engagement, and where they have the chance to either rise to the occasion or fall away. This clarity benefits both you and them. It removes the guesswork, the misunderstanding, and the potential for disappointment. You no longer have to chase validation or approval from others because you are confident in your own worth. You no longer have to beg for respect because you have created an environment where respect is a given. And when you do this, you empower both yourself and the people around you to engage in healthier, more genuine relationships. By teaching others how to treat you, you are ultimately teaching them how to value themselves as well. You don't need to be louder. You don't need to be meaner. You don't need to fight harder. You just need to be clearer. Be clear about what you accept. Be clear about what you expect. Be clear about what happens when those expectations are ignored. And then you end on it. The people who belong in your life will adapt to your standards. The rest, let them leave. Because once you stop tolerating disrespect, something amazing happens. It disappears. You're not here to be liked by everyone. You're not here to be easy for others to manipulate. You're here to live with purpose, power, and peace. And that begins the moment you stop waiting for others to treat you right and start teaching them how.